Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Everyone checking in on the MJ sector. So we started the morning with Canadian MJ looking really beat up and US MJ holding on really well, but by the end of the day, that faded a little bit and a lot of weakness out there. Some strength, we'll look at it, but not much. So CGC, after holding up really well the last few days while the sector was hurting in a big way, the bears caught up with it and gave back 4 green days in 1 red day and closed at the low of the day. So we now zoom out to the weekly time frame and we say, is this a weekly bear flag? And the answer is, that's absolutely possible. This weekly bounce did not do enough, and the fact that we can drop 8% in 1 day with no real catalyst as far as news goes, that shows you that the bears are still very confident. So support of 26.36, which was our base of support, broke, not by much, but it did break. So technically we lost the daily uptrend. We're looking at an hourly oversold bounce play, and I actually entered an initial starter position right at the end of the day because some of the oversold bounces in this sector have started before the previous day. We used to play plays where if we closed weak, we would look for the gap down open, we would buy the gap down open and get the bounce. That play has faded, and it's been more of a higher open kind of scenario recently. So I got the starter just in case, but fully anticipating adding 2 other positions if this hourly RSI were to drop down into the teens tomorrow with either a gap down open or a break of 26 psychological support first thing. So I am looking to play the oversold bounce on CGC, just looking for an hourly oversold bounce and for a lower high to form on the hourly time frame. But again, slowly scaling in depending on how the start to the morning goes tomorrow. So daily uptrend lost on CGC. Risk of the weekly bear flag is absolutely possible, and the daily trend change with a lack of follow through means zoom out and look for the bear flag. And again, we had red flags in the sector. CGC held up well all week, but gave it back today. CRON is leading the way to the downside with the weekly bear flag already confirming a weak bounce. Lower low following through. Now we're looking down at 10 psychological support, and 956 is the next level after that. So a 3-day drop on increasing bear volume, a close at the low of the day. The daily RSI is close to oversold. The 4-hour RSI is oversold. The hourly RSI is in the low 20s. If we were to break $10 psychological support tomorrow morning, I would be interested in an oversold bounce. Again, CGC and CRON hourly RSI is close to the teens, which would have me interested in those plays. So I will be keeping an eye on CRON tomorrow, but we'd have to drop a couple percent right out of the gate to break that $10 level for things to get extreme. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep my eye on CGC and not overextend myself playing these bounces. ACB, daily inside bar bear break. So again, we have not found a bottom yet from this bearish reaction to earnings. 514 is the low. That level held. It's a double bottom. But if that breaks, we're looking down at 5 psychological. 4-hour RSI is oversold. Hourly RSI is not oversold. So again, ideally, I want to see the more oversold time frames lining up, the better. So the fact that the hourly is not oversold on ACB does not make it a prime candidate for an oversold bounce just for me personally. APHA, daily time frame dropping down. So giving this whole move back, and now we're looking for a play off of weekly support. So the weekly support that must hold is 579, and we are currently, about 4% above that level. So if we were to drop down, let's see our RSI levels. 4-hour RSI is oversold. Hourly RSI, not quite beat up, but if we do start weak tomorrow, break $6 psychological support, we'll have some nice oversold time frames lining up to a daily support level. And that's the difference here where CGC, we are at daily support after just barely breaking it. CRON doesn't have any nearby support aside from 956. APHA at least has a support level to establish a trade game plan based off of, and it is that 579 level. So that's a key one to be watching. Again, just looking for hourly oversold bounces on most of these names, not looking for any kind of significant turnarounds as far as daily trend changes or anything like that. TLRY, weekly bear flag entirely possible. If we drop down and break support of 2907, the odds of it being a weekly bear flag will go up. and we'll be looking back down at 25.15. Still a tightening daily range, but we are not oversold on any of the time frames, which means I'm not interested in making a play off of that support personally. VFF. So VFF did get our bounce, where we were looking at a potential play off of $10 support. We ended up bouncing about 3% above 10.05, and looking at it on the hourly chart, nice move. Need an hourly higher low and higher high and an hourly trend change for this bounce to follow through on the daily, and we will just be looking for a daily lower high to form because anything under 1240 is that lower high. VGW. So VGW consolidating today, daily inside bar. If the inside bar breaks bearish, we're going to look to pull back and form a daily higher low compared to 341. If the inside bar breaks bullish, the bulls still have control, but we did see profit taking at the end of the day. Very healthy consolidation turned into more than healthy consolidation with a spike in bear volume and another leg down. So daily inside bar on watch. Worst case, we scout a daily higher low if it does end up being a bear break. ZYNE, I don't even know the news off the top of my head to lead to such a dump. I was not on the computer most of the day today, but there were a bunch of members playing this oversold bounce. The daily RSI was oversold. 4-hour RSI got absolutely crushed, almost single digits, and the hourly RSI was very beat up as well. So what marked the bottom here is we dumped and we had a little lower high and lower low, and that lower low broke support and didn't get a whole bunch of follow through. From there, we bounced and broke resistance. There's your first 5-minute trend change. And on that 5-minute trend change, the bull volume spiked. So if you waited for the higher low at 742 and the bull break of 760, there's your 5-minute trend change. And then we kept a 5-minute uptrend until the high of the day, all the way up at 869. So certainly a very worthwhile, more than 10% move once that 5-minute trend changed. And now we're looking at the bulls having to change the hourly trend. It's just a lower high on the hourly, cooling off a lot of RSI levels. Have to hold 721 and break 869 for an hourly trend change tomorrow if we do pull back first thing in the morning from 869 resistance. Cureleaf daily inside bar, so same thing. If it breaks bearish, we're going to look for a daily higher low to form compared to 962. If it breaks bullish, we're looking up at the recent highs. But anybody that formed a daily inside bar today in this sector is counting their blessings, because everybody was seeing a lot of weakness. And by everybody, I mean most everybody. GTII continues to stand out as a lead USMJ bull by a long shot with where we stand right now. So another bull move. 1350 is short-term support, but anything above 1241 is a daily higher low. Resistance is 1445, and looking up at 15 psychological from there. A lot of people think that this potential action may be an indication that Bruce is going to be joining on with GTII. It's as good a theory as any, in my opinion, but certainly wouldn't be trading based on that game plan. I would be trading based on the chart being extremely bullish. But again, every weekend now I'm going to start covering the US MSOs and comparing them to each other. So we see who is strongest, who is weakest. And if we look at GTII, we closed 35% off of our 2019 low, and you're not going to find many USMJ names that are up that much from their 2019 low. Hourly time frame, consolidation into the end of the day. 1391 is hourly support. If that level breaks tomorrow, we'll look for a pullback for a daily higher low to form. OH, this is a red flag. This is a daily bear flag possible because we broke resistance. We had an hourly equilibrium that broke bull. We got over the high of the bounce, 762. We broke it by 3 pennies straight into consolidation for the rest of the day. So when you break resistance and change trends with no follow through, you zoom out and look for a potential flag. And this is a potential bear flag. And I'm even more confident looking at that as a bear flag because of what CL is doing. CL, as we pointed out in the video yesterday, is a potential daily bear flag. Here we are closing at the low of the day and only looking at 934 support before we drop to lower lows with no support nearby. 9 psychological would be next. It's a bear flag. The burden of proof is on the bulls to prove to us it's not a bear flag. 934 has to hold, and we have to break 992, which is a tall order for the bulls to fill. They could certainly pull it off, but the direction of momentum is heading down right now. TRUL, a little bit of a weak bounce, hit resistance of 12 psychological. So now we're looking back down at 1126 support. If we break 1126 from here, we then have a daily lower high and lower low, and we're then looking at weekly consolidation being underway. And the bulls have to form a weekly higher low compared to 991. Not many USMJ names have weekly trend changes going on right now. we do have space where Curaleaf bulls can pull back and form a weekly higher low. GTII certainly has weekly space to pull back. OH is losing that weekly space. Not many support levels left. And CL also losing that space. No space there. TRUL has a little space to work with. So we need weekly trend changes, which means essentially if we do get some kind of catalyst in the House, if we can get a vote on the SAFE Act, and if that were to pass, and if we were to get some headlines, maybe that would have these names form their weekly higher lows and try and shift that momentum. But that's a big if, waiting on the government for a catalyst. And right now, no sign of that yet. Potential murmurings of that happening next week, but that remains to be seen. IAN, bullish news came out today. So volume absolutely stands out. And there were some broker-to-broker transactions going on. And when I say that, when you see this kind of volume spike, 620,000 shares traded, which is how much of the day's total volume? 30% or so of the day's total volume, and the price doesn't move, you know that's a broker-to-broker. That wasn't done on the open market. And there were a few of those on the ITHUF US ticker as well. So what stood out, end of the day, really saved things. If we didn't get that last 5-minute candlestick, IAM would have closed with a big upper wick and it would have been very ugly. But that last 5 minutes completely saved the candlestick. And it was a 3 or 4% move in that candle. Well, from the previous candle to that one, this is your day saver right there, where you went 5% in the last 5 minutes. So big save for the bulls. So we had news come out that they bought a bunch in Nevada. They bought dispensary, they bought cultivation, they bought a bunch of stuff. There's still a lot of, stipulations of what it's going to take for the deal to go through. They're not expecting it to go through until 2020. It depends on whether Nevada is going to allow for licenses to be transferred and all that. And there will be dilution along with that deal of $22 million worth of shares, I believe. But again, that's looking forward into 2020. And the market liked this news enough to get the daily oversold bounce going. So if you look back historically, IAN, one thing that the bulls have been consistent with is bounces from daily and 4-hour oversold conditions. And the daily RSI didn't get beat up enough for me to begin scaling in. It got right to 30. The 4-hour RSI did get down to the mid 20s. And then that news, again, just sparked that oversold bounce. So we can say anything under 333 is a daily lower high. We're not close to changing the daily trend. We can bounce another 10% and still form a daily lower high. So we have to change the daily trend. That is step number 1 for a shift in momentum. And we will need to top out wherever that ends up being, form a higher low, and then a higher high. The bulls are working on changing the hourly trend, which they will have to break the high of today, tomorrow to do so. Our new hourly higher low is 273. Bulls have to break 293 tomorrow morning. So daily oversold bounce is underway, but a lot more work needs to be done. Again, volume's notable. Let's see. Another thing that stood out to me today was on ITHUF, a big bid of 111,000 shares at 215. And it sat there for a while until it eventually got sold into. And someone sold into all those shares, but that means someone loaded $230,000, $240,000 worth of shares at 215. So that was a real bid and it really got filled. So that was a pretty big order. And again, the volume stands out. ITHUF with 1.1 million shares traded. So let's see if something can come of this as far as being a spark to potentially change the daily trend. And definitely want to give a shout out. There's some people on Reddit and some people responding onto the YouTube video that I did about IAN and the convertible debt yesterday that did their own further research and shared information that was very helpful. So again, just piecing together the clues of what happened with the MPX deal and what kind of convertibles were out there. Some were converted under $3 Canadian. Some were converted at about $4.40 Canadian. And just watching to see if the downward pressure subsides enough to change the daily trend. If it does, then it can join some of the other USMJ names that have changed the daily trend a while ago. But what we're looking for on everybody in the sector is a weekly trend change. That's something that we have not seen clearly, and we've seen it in a couple names, but we want to see the whole sector change its weekly trends to be out of a bear market is essentially what we're looking for. So on the weekly time frame for IAN, anything under 360 is a lower high. But one step at a time, change the hourly trend. If we can do that tomorrow, zoom out. We watch for the daily lower high, but keep an eye out for the potential of a daily trend change. So bottom line, still a lot of despair out there. The S&P 500 hit all-time highs today. The market, or this sector, is not really seeing any of that love, and it's going to require a catalyst, in my opinion, to at least get people interested again, to get some shorts to cover, and we'll see if Congress can provide us that sometime in the next couple of weeks. There have been a lot of people, or a lot of rumors that potentially they'll look to vote on it the week of the 23rd, which is next week. But again, for me, it's all about the Senate. It'd be great to get those article headlines and to get it in the news and people talking about it. But until it looks like we're going to pass the Senate, I'm not going to be holding my breath that the SAFE Act is going to pass, because the Senate is the hurdle. There is hope, but better to underpromise, overdeliver, and not be disappointed. That's the way that I go about things. And we'll take it one day at a time, as always. So we'll see if this oversold bounce gets going on CGC and CRON tomorrow. And again, being a bit picky with CRON, waiting for that $10 psychological level to see if that comes into play. And we'll see if we get weaker opens. One thing that I will point out is, like I said, I have a starter position in CGC. If we were to see a higher open, and if you give me an open at 26.60, I'm probably just going to lock in my short-term profit right then and there, and it should just be back to a clean slate. The reason being that we'll have cooled off RSI levels, and I just don't like starting. Really, the two ways to do it would be to hold that position, put a stop below the low of yesterday, or just lock in that profit when you have it. And in a sector like this, with the momentum in the direction that it's heading, for me, I always lock in that profit when I have it. So if we see a lower open, the RSI on the hourly should be still crushed, and I will be looking to add a couple more positions as we drop down into the 25s. If we get a higher open, I will exit that position, even if it's only a small gain, just because that's not the ideal setup of how I would like to start the morning. Thanks again. Do good things out there. Hope you're well, and we will see you over the weekend to wrap up both sides of the border. Low, high, higher, low, lower, high, higher, low, 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 low, high, higher, low, lower, high, higher, low. I'm ready to trade. Just need some higher lows and lower highs. Keep getting rejected by these middle Bollinger Bands. Come on, you fat bulls, you piece of mother goat loving fat. Here we go. All-time high test. Get it, bulls? Get it, bulls?